So, young Mr. Spade, I'm thinking you're 5 years old, you're in Limerick, and you start doing magic. Sure. Was it your dad? Was it TV? Where did that come from?
Yeah, there was just a lot of inspiration kind of around. My uncle was actually a magician, so he was a kind of a big part of that as well. And he I suppose he kind of saw that it was just not more just a hobby, that I was kind of more into it than just a hobby. But it was a hobby that became a career. That's really what it was, and it just built, and I kept kind of pushing the envelope, I guess.
Well, it's a tricky one because, like any artist, if you're a musician or an actor and all that, taking the actual leap into the profession, there's no 9 to 5, there's no guarantee of income. You're kind of, a certain amount of talent, obviously, but there's certainly luck as well gets involved. So you at 17 kind of knew this is for me, this is what I'm going to do.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I did go to college. I did radio broadcasting, I did hotel management, I did different things like that. I was going through college, but I'm still performing magic and still regularly doing a lot of events, did a lot of like charity events, and I worked a lot with different companies and different things like that, and kind of built, I suppose, kind of a bit of a rep through that while I was in college and stuff like that. So I suppose there was always that kind of link between like the media side of it and film and creating and all that. It was all creative outlets really, but the magic was something that was always there. And then I suppose as I got a little bit older and kind of started to kind of realize the disciplines of magic, then the escapology came into it, and the love of like Houdini and all that kind of danger magic became a huge part of it then.
But was there, I don't know if there was such a kind of a moment that you realized, I'm good at this, like I know what I'm doing here, I'm not just having fun, I'm actually worthy of going to Vegas, I'm worthy of getting a Merlin Award.
There was a few moments, I guess, early on in my career. There was a time where I did a show. Mike Tyson was over in Ireland doing a thing, and I remember performing for Mike Tyson. I felt kind of after that, like, I mean, I wowed Mike Tyson, so I'm pretty sure I can wow anyone after that. And he didn't knock me out, which is great.
That's it.
I wouldn't last a second.
Always a good sign. He likes you if he doesn't knock you out. That's his rule.
Yeah. I feel sorry for Jake Paul. But things like that, I think I suppose it's a crossover of like, is it luck or is it preparation or whatever. I think it's a mix of both. You can get lucky but not be prepared, and it won't mean anything, So I think I was kind of eager to do those things, and I saw myself in a bigger light. There's a lot of magicians that are kind of settled at being like a wedding magician or a party magician, but I always saw myself as an international act.
Now, there was a pivotal moment. There was a year when you both performed for Rihanna, but you also did RTE, and these sort of moments, they must be kind of feel like you've taken a step towards that sort of international, career. Because
I think so.
Yeah, and can you remember your feeling when being on the Late Late Show, performing for Rihanna? Were there, I don't know whether it's always thrilling or whether there's always a certain amount of fear that you just hope this goes well?
The RTE thing came about because I was asked to do the Christmas cracker on the Daily Show.
Right.
And they had me on once to do it, and it went down so well that they wanted me back. So I did it for about 9 months, kind of off and on. They would have a different act in, or somebody like writing a book, or an author, or maybe an actor or something. So they would give me a brief that we've got such and such coming in. Can you do a trick that kind of works into their brand or whatever? So it was a big challenge, to be honest, but that kind of forced me into something I did later on down the road, which was the consultancy for movies. And I think that pressure of being like on a deadline and kind of creating stuff that was trying to new or adapt stuff to kind of fit their kind of what their idea of it was something that I felt like a really good challenge at the time, and I think that did kind of push me to go down that road as well.
Well, as the great Mrs. Martin, the late Mrs. Martin said, there's a huge difference between making the two of clubs disappear, which would be someone like Paul Daniels, to making the Statue of Liberty disappear, with Copperfield.
Sure, yeah.
That scale, is that something that you've always had in the back of your mind? I want this to be big. I don't want to be just doing, small.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I remember being a kid and being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up, kind of thing. And I used to say a magician, even though it sounded crazy. I might as well say an astronaut or anything else. But my family and my dad, especially my late dad now, he was a massive drive to that. You can be whatever you want to be if you put the work in, kind of attitude. And even I think on the kind of physical and the physicality side of it, I've always liked the danger escape kind of side of it, because it's more, you can kind of phone it in a bit if you're a magician at times, but I think there's no real faking it. There's no amateurs or semi-professional escape artists. You either can do it or you can't, and if you can't, you're more than likely injured or dead, because it's a dangerous part of what we do, and that's why there's only a handful of escape artists in the world.
But that thing of actually doing live shows, especially, people tend to not trust, the screen. They tend to think, well, there's a good chance that somebody's manipulated this, or we're just not getting to see the full picture. But obviously live, it does have to work. It does have to be, everything's right there in front of your eyes. And it is a trick, and it is beautifully done. But to make the magic kick in, it's a lot of work to convince people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think people come to a live show to see that, because again, can you trust TV? You see Spider-Man fly from building to building, so people, it's getting harder and harder.
Are you saying that's not real?
yeah. I won't say anything. But there's a lot of CGI. But no, just absolutely. I think people love to see it real. It's one of the things, kind of a compliment that you get a lot, is like people like, oh, I can't believe you can do it in front of me, kind of thing. I really do it. When they see it on TV, they can kind of dismiss it, I guess. But when they see it, or they feel it, or it happens in their hand or in their mind, it's very real for them at that moment. And I think that's what magic is. I think that feeling is what magic is.
Now, I know that in America you've got the Magic Circle, and there's a lot of very famous people in it, and Penn and Teller, and even our boy Patrick, the wonderful actor from How I Met Your Mother. I forget his first name, but there's a lot of kind of well-known people. Is the Irish scene healthy? I know that here in Greystones we have JD Magicians. They're the only female professional magic duo. People like Keith Barry. I don't know if there's a sense that there's a community, that there's a sense that it's a big thing, or is it still a kind of a kind of a niche?
Yeah, it's kind of a niche, I guess, but there is a lot of performers out there performing. It's great, right. and trying to push it now into a internet. I feel like that all tides rise, all ships, that kind of thing. So if anyone's doing anything big in the world of magic, it's good for every magician right across the world, because it gets it back. We don't really have that pop culture thing where it's always in the papers, it's always on the TV, So it's not like rock music or bands or music or any other genre, really. Magic can be a little bit kind of a lost art sometimes, and I think any magician doing anything in a global setting is going to bring up everyone.
Now, we'll have to mention 2003 you win the Merlin Award. That must have been a giant leap forward in regard to your stage, kind of on the world stage, just knowing I've got this under my belt now, I'm actually recognised.
Yeah, it was surreal, man. It really was. Because I suppose the pandemic had happened, and my friend and business partner kind of as well, Dave Peace, we came up with the Deceive Reality podcast. So we started interviewing magicians from all over the world, all through the pandemic, and doing virtual things and things like that, and kind of keeping that kind of spirit and a community sense on an international scale kind of open. And then through that I met a guy called Andrew Basso, who is like an Italian Houdini kind of thing, and
right.
he's one of the main guys in the Global Association of Escape Artists, and he looked at my body of work, and then other people looked at my body of work, and then they invited me into the Global Escapology kind of union and thing. So when I was part of that, I think that got the attention of the Merlin Award, and then I had an email and a call, and it was just like, you've been nominated, and I'm like, for what? And then I kind of, I knew what it was, but I never thought it was going to knock on my door, Right.
How cocky were you for the week after you won that?
Pretty cocky when I was in Vegas, when I came back, got kicked right back down again,
Now, there's a great kind of, wide range of magicians, so from the Tommy Coopers and Penn and Teller to one of my favourites, Jerry Sadowitz, to the David Blaines and all that. Was it easy for you to decide, that these are the strengths that I have, these are the things I love to do? Did that take a while?
Yeah, I think so. I think it takes a long time to be kind of true to yourself and actually be you, instead of being... I think a lot of people that come into magic especially will go, oh, I love Paul Daniels, so I just do all of Paul Daniels' routines and acting. I mean, there's even guys that would try to dress like him or whatever, I think my kind of generation, I guess, there was a lot of David Blaines, there was a lot of that street kind of thing, but I've always been in, like, I'm a musician as well. I play the guitar, and I've always been into like bands and music, so I try to fuse a bit of that with it, but then I have a love of like old magic and like the historical side of it, and like kind of like past legends and things. So it's a mixed bag of like all the things I like, and that makes a unique thing, and that's what Steve Spade is. You're
trying to tell us you're a cool fecker, is that I'm always thinking now, there's the great Houdini, probably the godfather of certainly escapology, but when it comes to magician, he's like the byword for, well, this is what a magician should be like, this is the godfather of it all. And when it comes to someone like David Blaine, who I know you've sort of referenced and it would have been an influence, I've always felt though with him it's more like Houdini, because I'm never sure, like some of the stunts he does, I'm thinking, why did you do that? There is a sort of a hipness that's come into magic that wasn't there 10, 20 years ago. I don't know if that's something that you've you know, noticed in a big way that you thought, it's actually become part of the cool?
I agree with you, and yeah, absolutely. I just back to that kind of pop culture thing. It's kind of hard to make it relevant, but people who have, obviously, people like Keith here in Ireland, you know, Chris Angel in Vegas, and like Blaine in New York, and there is these certain guys that are able to fuse other elements of like who they are and what they do into the magic. So it's not just magic. So if you don't really like magic, well, come to the show anyway, because it's going to be a lot more than just magic, you know. So
Nice.
I think that's what has to happen for it to, especially with technology and stuff now, you've got to keep moving with the times. And magicians have always been almost kind of like scientists in a way, that we've always been right on the pinnacle of whatever's new, and we adapt our magic into that.
So just looking forward, obviously you're going to win another Merlin Award. Obviously that's going to happen. But are there certain kind of goals that you think? Well, I want to have, you know, a Vegas residency one day. I want to, you know, sell out the O2. I don't know if there's certain things you put in your mind. That's what I'm going. That's what I'm headed to.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think any magician would be lying to you if they said they didn't want to play Vegas or headline Vegas or whatever, because it's the home of magic in a sense now, and entertainment globally anyway. But even being over there was just it was just surreal, and being there for that award and everything was crazy. It would be amazing to get nominated again. It's not easy. There's a whole committee, and there's kind of like secret members who judge you, and you don't even know who they are, and it's very I don't know will I get another one, but it'd be nice.
Lovely chubbly.